All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Happy Friday, everybody, bringing you guys this Friday energy as always. I mentioned in the last podcast, because this is all done on Friday the 10th here, and it's the same day. We have a little bit of background noise in a beagle that keeps barking, and then my daughter keeps entering the room. She's 11 months old, and she's figured out how to push the door open. So you might hear that, but we're going to run through it because it's life. Today is going to be a good day. We got Ryan Smolarz with us on the podcast. Ryan is a self-storage guy, which I love to hear because we like self-storage as well. So I'm sure this is going to be an interesting episode. Ryan, thanks for hopping on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And by the way, Ryan, you're calling from where are you calling from again?
St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
St. Thomas. All right. Do you live out there permanently, or is that a vacation?
No, I've been here almost 14 years.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to visit out on those islands, but I've never made it. So one of these days.
We'll take care.
There you go. I told you before we get on here, we always like starting with stories and hearing kind of how people got to where they are in their career. I'm sure you got a good one. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how'd you get started?
Yeah, so I'm a surgeon during the day. So I'm an otolaryngologist and ear, nose, and throat surgeon. Back in 2017, I realized I didn't know a single thing about finance, money, didn't even really know what finance was. I was swimming and exercising with some of my friends, and I turned to one of them and said, hey, listen, like, I don't even know how to get into my bank account. I don't even know where we bank. That makes me very uncomfortable. I think I want to change that. So about 6 weeks later, I was in business school, getting my MBA. And that was, wow, what a change that was. I remember looking around going, I do not belong here. Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. About the third day, I looked up at the board and the professor was talking, and I realized something that was very profound to me. I realized that my entire life, I was a consumer. I was the person that all these commercials were targeting towards, right? My mental headspace was filled with, how long will it be till I can get the watch or the car or whatever it was that was next on the agenda, right? And so I realized at that point in time, it was sort of a life-changing moment for me, that I wanted to be an investor, and I wanted to fill my headspace with solving problems, solving the world's problems, trying to figure out ways of, using my capital to make the world a better place. And so as we went along, that's exactly what I did. And to this day, I sort of think that way. Somewhere along the way, I found self-storage. And I can tell you how that happened. I was driving down the street. I was just about to graduate and trying to figure out how I was going to use these newfound skills. In business school, I'd put in a lot of time and effort, and I didn't want them to go to waste. And the first podcast was, hey, you can tell how complicated your life is by how many keys you have. And I looked over in my passenger seat, and you really couldn't see any seat. It was filled with keys. I said, man, my life is way too complicated. So I got to find something that's pretty straightforward, and something that, is bite-sized. So serendipitously, the next podcast comes on, and it was about self-storage. And they said, look, guys, listen, the commercial real estate's very complicated, but if you want to find something that's sort of easy to wrap your hands around, or easier, try self-storage. It's a concrete slab with a metal box. Like, people put their pink flamingos there. How hard can that be? Turns out it's a lot more to it than that. But it is what it is. So since then, I have been to conferences and hired mentors and, used my MBA skills to really sort of figure this thing out. And what I did find out was that it's a full contact sport, anything in commercial real estate, right? You got to have a good team. So over the last couple of years, we've been building an incredible team, putting everything together. And I'm really proud of what we've done, to be quite honest with you. I still operate and I still see patients, but a lot of my focus is towards this and trying to help other doctors like myself figure out this world of finance because they tend to, keep themselves healthy because they know how to do it. They tend to have good relationships sometimes, depending on if they're a surgeon or not. But this whole finance piece, man, most of us, I'll put it that way, struggle with that piece, and I want to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, with doctors, lawyers, engineers, they all, when you ever think about a profession that makes good money, those are the professions that come to mind. So you always think, oh, they're making good money. They got it figured out.
Yep.
But in money incoming to you is not the same as you investing that money and being able to feel freedom from the money that you're generating.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
it's an interesting interesting kind of slide of change there. So before you respond, can you move that mic just a little bit closer to your mouth? It's
Yep.
your
Yep.
voice is a little bit quiet. Perfect. Um, okay, so you started off, you went to MBA, and the first thing that kind of popped into your view was self storage. That's awesome. I love the asset. I mentioned we've bought quite a few of them in the past couple of years, and I'm super bullish on them. I enjoy building them and buying them and adding them to the portfolio. Uh, the biggest thing that kind of popped out in my mind in your story was the mention of a team. It sounds like that was the point that you were most proud about and also kind of catapulted you to where you are today. Building the team, in my opinion, is the most difficult thing and also the most rewarding, and the most financially rewarding thing that you can do is to grow your business. You need to build a team. So let's focus in on that for now, and
Okay.
kind of go back to when you left your MBA school in 2000. I think you mentioned 2017, something like that.
Yep. Finished up in
And
18.
yeah, and you just started to get into real estate. What were the first few steps you took to start to build that team around you?
Yeah. So the first thing I did was go out and try to find, Googling who's the best mentor teacher in the world.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know that I found him, but I think I got pretty close. And if you ask me, I think I did. It was Scott Myers, and so he had a program to learn about self storage. I had a pretty good business background since I just finished school, but I wanted to take it further. So I went and got myself educated. I came out not knowing what you just said about the team and how important it is. I tried to do it on my own.
Hmm.
It was daunting, right? I did one thing right. I got into a few limited partnership deals, so I was able to kind of ride the coattails of some, seasoned professionals, which was good. But for me to think that I was going to play this contact sport on my own, with very little experience at the time, was not what one should do. So, as we went further and further, I did join a team. And then we did good deals, and they're still around today. But I decided I wanted to go and build my own team. And so after that, that's pretty much the last couple of years as we've been doing that. And man, like you said, it is by far and away the most rewarding.
Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about it. You started off on your own. That is where everybody starts. They've got an idea. They want to build a team. They want to go down this path. You realize, like, I can't do this alone. So what are the first? Let's say, what is the first problem that you wanted to solve by bringing somebody on board to kind of help solve that problem?
Yeah, so we had been in the syndication loop, and I wanted to kind of take it to the next level and start a fund. So I needed a capital raiser. So the first thing I did, I had, been having meetings with all these different people, and finally, that came together. And so we started off our team with me and a capital raiser.
Okay.
The next thing we did, I needed some way to bring folks in to let us know that we exist, right? So I needed sort of a marketing person, and I hired a consultant, and they have a team behind them. And so now we have social media presence, the podcast and all the stuff. After that, interestingly enough, one of my dear friends from college just so happened that he was available. And the way we found out is we were going through all of our contacts, just letting everybody know what we were doing, what we were up to. And we got to Brent, and he said, I'm not really interested in being a limited partner, but interestingly enough, I am looking for a team. And my jaw just hit the floor. He had 30 years of real estate experience, multifamily, self-storage, development, acquisition, the whole bit. And, one of the most trusted people I've ever met, or trusting people that I've ever met. Um, and so since then, we've spoken about every day. We had lost touch for 2 decades. Like I didn't speak to him. I didn't know where he was, what he was doing. And not only from a perspective of it made the company infinitely better, but I got to reunite with one of my friends from back in the day, and that's just incredible.
Nice. That's a good story. It's funny how life kind of works out well sometimes like that.
Indeed.
So what role did he take on when he joined the team?
He's going to oversee the acquisitions part. So the actual at the facility level, oversee the management team, underwriting, and that sort of thing. And then my role is the fund management role. So compliance, with the SEC, third party fund management, all of those sorts of things, the accounting, the books, the K1s, all that sort of stuff. And then, we have the capital raise side as well. So, but that's my sort of central role. And that's how I think about how a fund should be structured.
Got it. So it sounds like your team comprises of a capital raiser, somebody to help with marketing to, it sounds like go out there and get. Actually, are you guys is when you say marketing, are you marketing for investors or are you marketing for deals?
Well, that particular role is for investors,
Ah,
sort of a social media presence to let doctors know that we're around, we're building a community, building an ecosystem, and there is a place for people to go to learn about this stuff, talk to other people who are interested.
got it. So you got a capital raiser, marketing, and then acquisitions, and then you as the fund manager. That's the team that you built to build out your portfolio.
Yep.
Perfect. I love it. So why did you decide to go the fund model versus syndications?
Yeah, so it has a lot to do with the structure and the waterfall. The way we set ours up is not a blind pool, it's a series LLC. And so when we do brand, across the portfolio, I want it to be more of sort of a united sort of thing. To me, the Series LLC is the best structure that exists because you have the concrete wall between each facility. It can be run like a syndication. Um, I I don't really like the blind pool model because I feel like there tends to be, unless you're extraordinarily good at it, capital sitting around that's not working for your investors. So a lot of the time the
And
IRRs will go down.
and real quickly, explain the difference between the two.
Yeah, so Series LLC is basically like a holding company, where underneath it the facilities are, you can think about it as a tree or an inverted tree, where in between each facility that you own, there's a concrete barrier. And so it's called a American waterfall, where each facility, the returns stay within that facility, right? If one does extraordinarily well, you capitalize on that money in the deal. If one of them is not doing so well, that the returns go down a little bit. So um, they're not
Averaged.
pouring over. Yeah, like a European waterfall. So more of a European waterfall would be the blind pool structure, where if one's doing poorly or not as well, and one's doing really good, it would sort of even out because the returns are spread across the investor base.
And so when you go out and raise capital from investors, are you you're raising per deal, it sounds like, which is essentially the same thing as a syndication. But there is I mean, it's just kind of structured differently on the legal side.
Yeah, on the legal side, it looks a little differently. To me, it makes compliance a little bit easier because especially if you're doing 506c funds, the exemption for the one that we use, and that is so we can advertise. But in the flip side of the coin is we have to prove that investor is accredited. So that's the give and take. But with that type of Series LLC structure, all the compliance in my mind is kind of held at the holding company level at the top. So you only have to have one set of rules to follow, if that makes
Got it.
sense.
And that's
Yeah.
why you would choose that model over syndications, because with the syndication model, you got paperwork for every single syndication you do.
Yep.
Is that kind of how it
You,
works?
you, I see it as, especially if you're in a syndication loop, I see it as kind of having to reinvent the wheel every time.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, I've thought about doing funds. I always veered away from it just because of the second reason that you said, that I didn't want to be liable for money sitting there not generating income from people. I didn't want that kind of. I felt like that'd be a little bit too much stress for me, because I
Yep.
want to get the biggest return for my investors. And if there was, $200,000 sitting in an account waiting to be invested that had no return, that would be a problem in my mind.
Yep.
So it sounds like this kind of solves that. This the method that you're going about it, because you are raising for an individual deal. You get a deal, let's say it's $5 million. You need 250,000, 100,000, a million, whatever the amount is, to raise in order to complete the deal. And then you go out and you raise those funds and you put them into one bank account. And it kind of works like that versus the fund model, the traditional fund model, I guess European is what you're saying, where you get the money, you push it into an account, and then as deals come up, you start investing in them.
Yeah. The latter is more like a line of credit, right? Um, yeah.
Got it. Cool. So about let's talk about self storage itself. You guys are buying. It sounds like in the southeast is where you're focused on.
Yeah, we'll buy anywhere where the state likes businesses and treats them well. So that's our number one criteria. We look at the same things as everybody else does in most respects. Demographics, the population going up. Is there a good industry? Can it support it? What's the average income? All of those sorts of things. It's interesting where especially so if you're in a tight or very big MSA like a New York or
San Antonio.
yeah, San Antonio, um, the amount of people fighting over the fumble ball when a deal comes up can drive the prices up a little bit, as you
Yeah.
probably well know. So we we really like to get to know the seller. We really like to, when we come to the negotiating table, we want everybody to walk away a winner. And so I think that may be one of the things that separates us a little bit from other teams. Um, so, I feel like that's one of our strengths.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. It looks like we have run down our 15-minute allotment, so it is time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. It starts with education. Could be any form. Could be movies. Could be books. Could be YouTube shows. Whatever. I just need two recommendations: one for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
Yeah, so my favorite book is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. I tend to use that as my mantra. One book that I read recently that I really liked in the real estate world is The Holy Grail of Investing, talking about private equity. There's a big section on real estate in there by Tony Robbins. I think it's very, very valuable for people to understand what's happening out there and that there are thousands of firms like mine and probably yours out there, raising capital and buying deals in commercial real estate and residential for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, great book. I haven't read the 10X one, but I've heard many people talk about it. I feel like I get the gist of what's in there, and I like the message. I need to pick it up one day and get it
Absolutely.
read. All right, next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Ryan who had no idea about finances. He was swimming with his buddies and thinking, man, I really need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I would kind of beat him over the head and say, why didn't you start earlier? Um, but it would be the team thing. It would be make sure to really vet people and find the absolute best that you can, because not only are you going to have a better firm, but you're going to be a better person, right? If you find moral people and they will push you to be a better person.
Yeah. What's that? The phrase? What is it? It's like high tides raise all the ships or something like that.
Yeah.
If you, yeah, surround yourself with good people, and you yourself will improve. So that is great advice. Moves us to the next question. This is about the U.S. It is a big place. There's a lot of opportunity out there. You've already mentioned kind of the Southeast, but give me a single metro that you're most excited about investing in today.
Let's see here. Probably Salt Lake City, Utah, and the
Interesting.
surrounding
Okay.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You're the
picked
first
one
person
where,
to say that.
yeah, I picked one that may not always come up.
Yeah. Yeah, people generally, I mean, I've heard everywhere in the Southeast, in the South in Texas, yada yada, but the West, people just don't like the West. People don't want to invest out here because prices are too high, which makes sense. But I've heard good things about Salt Lake. I've heard there's a lot of good opportunity there. So there you go. Next question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Yeah, so we talk constantly about what we call the marketing machine. It's dialers, getting in contact with brokers, um, generating lists. We're huge on generating lists with AI and other softwares. And, we want to touch every facility that's in an area that we would buy a facility. And to do that, it takes a lot of upfront work, but that to me is where the gold is.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the best way to do it. In fact, I'm just selling two really tiny self-storage facilities. I bought them for 160,000 each, but we're selling them for $1 million. And I got
Nice.
those deals because they were not listed on Google. If you search self storage in the area, they would not pop up. You had to actually look at the Google Maps and find these facilities, and then find the address. And I feel like that still to this day, I feel like that's the best way to find good deals. There's plenty of deals out there that you can find, but if you want those killer deals that are just like far and above away the best ROI for your money, hire a VA, have them search self storage, and then all the little dots will pop up, so you know which ones not to market to, and then have them
Right.
look in like literally open Google, look in each street, and look for something that looks like the asset that you're looking for: self storage facilities, mobile home parks, RV parks, whatever. Hopefully, it does not have a Google listing. If it doesn't, then you know you struck gold. Go get that address, skip trace it. Those are the ones that you really want.
Absolutely.
All right. So that leads us to the last question. This is for the listeners. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. It's a two-parter. Number one, where can they find you? And then number two, what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah. So the best place to find us is at www.storpartners.com, storpartners.com. There is a link. You can click that button. It has my Calendly, it has my team on there. We have spaces available. Start with a call. Let's build some rapport, talk about what the interests are, and go from there. I'd also like to, if it's okay with you, put a number in the comments. We have a special number that we like to do text threads with, especially with the docs. They're busy. They may be on lunch, can shoot over a question or ask about a resource. Maybe they're looking for, whatever it is that they're looking for, a book that has this particular topic that I may be able to help with, how to, we can make a call on that number, whatever the case may be, but it gives us direct access back and forth to be able to shoot those short messages on.
There you go. I will put that number in the show notes. Just let me know what it is, and I'll put it in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find Joe's links and that phone number. I'm sorry, Ryan. I
That's
looked
okay.
at my other screen, and somebody on my team is named Joe, and so that
I'll
just came out of my
I'll
mind.
go by either. It's my first, so we're all good.
All right, Ryan. Thank you very much for hopping on the show. It has been a pleasure.
Oh man, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just give us a review on Apple or Spotify or whatever you're listening to this on. Other than that, I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week or weekend. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.